Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. Another great day out here on the homestead. So I got a call over the weekend and our contractor said they had some free time this week and was ready to come finish up the job here. So of course I said, come on, let's get her done. So they showed up bright and early this morning. We worked all day and we just about got the building 100% complete as far as the main kit and the structure is concerned. So let me show you what we did. So looking up at the structure, you can see there just under the tent at the very top, we've got the red eave. They put that eave on there last time, but what we didn't do was, I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but underneath there's what's called closure tape. And that's just a foam seal that goes between the tin and the trim. And then of course they put screws all along to tie that down and to hold the foam in place. And then as we get out here under the open patio area, if you look up at the top as well, we finished that out. So the trim was already on there, but there was another trim that's a spacer trim which went underneath it, and you can kind of see the rust red wraparound trim there under the eave. And so that wraps around, and then of course the main thing we did, we put the last pieces of tin on, and then on the outside here you've got the rake trim that just trims out the whole side all the way up to the angle at the top. And of course they finish that peak out real nice, how they join them together nice and smooth there. And that of course has both the rake trim, and then there was also a spacer trim that goes underneath that, which wraps around the red iron and just kind of gives it a better finished look. And of course all the way around on this side as well, and you can see that wraparound trim underneath there. And again, that's just a nicer finished out look. And then if we look underneath the patio to the end wall, and you look up at the top there, you can see the smooth white trim, and that basically closes up any gaps or anything around that purlin and just creates a nice finished look to seal that up. And so a nice finished look. So real happy with how this building's coming together. So you may wonder, what do we have left? Well, so we're gonna put some of that same closure tape that runs along the sides. We'll put it up underneath that trim there. So that trim is screwed to the tin. We'll unscrew that and just slide the foam seal tape up underneath there and then screw it back down. So that'll be a real simple task that will Lorena and I'll do that, and we are going to do the same thing on the other end. There's the rake trim down there and the same gap underneath. So we'll finish that up, and that's the entirety of the building itself as far as what was contained in the kit and everything that we did as far as framing and then putting up all the tin and everything. So we do have a finished structure now. If we didn't put the closure tape on the ends, it would not make any difference at all. Maybe some bugs could get up underneath there or whatever, but it is going to be spray foamed from the inside, so that will seal everything up good and solid anyway, so no big deal there. Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. For all intents and purposes, the metal building, the structure at least, is complete. You know, we started with a kit that consisted of all the framing and the external tin. We added some walk doors and windows to that. We've got the roof put on. Everything's sealed up and watertight, with exception to the big garage doors, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we do have one task remaining, and that's just to put up some more closure tape where we're just sealing up little gaps. Now these gaps are going to be sealed up from the inside with spray foam, so it's not really a big deal, but we're going to close all these little areas up really, because keeping bees and being out in the country, there's other bugs around and stuff, and we just don't want to create voids where bugs can build nests or whatever. We don't want bees trying to build hives inside of eaves or anything like that. So it's just our preference. The closure tape was provided with the building, so it's our preference to use it and to make sure that we seal everything up best we can just to keep the bugs out. Kind of show you here what it looks like. So here's a little piece of closure tape. So here's a little piece of closure tape. It's longer than this. This one's been ripped off because it was used to fit into a half space. And you can see that this tape is made, it's foam, and it's made to fit on the outside of the tin. So it's basically has the shape of a sheet of tin. So you put it on there like that, and then a piece of trim goes over the top of it, and that's what gives you that foam seal on the inside. Oh, that's nice. I just got tape mess all over it because it's got a little glue on there. Something else I got to clean up now, but anyway, that's how you seal up these gaps and everything. And so up here you can see on the underneath of the patio there, we've got that white trim along the top. So we just got to go along underneath that and put in this closure tape just to seal all that up, so that empty space behind that trim is not left wide open. So, and we've got to do the same thing on the eave on the other end. So not a difficult task, just something we need to do. We've already done it along the sides. If you look up there, the red trim that goes under the eaves, that all has the closure tape under it already. Not sure how well you can see that on the camera, but the dark space under there is that foam tape. So that's all sealed up, just to prevent leaving an empty space up behind all that trim. If we did leave an empty space along there, trust me, our honeybees could swarm and get inside of that, and you'd have this entire length of that thing full of honeycomb, and you know, they'd build a giant bee's nest in there, and sooner or later you'd have honey dripping down your walls. You know, it'd just be a mess. Don't know for a fact that they would do that, but they do it in houses and stuff when you leave empty voids. So we're just playing it safe and making sure that we close everything up good and tight so that they can't do that. Over here, of course, on the rake trim, that same thing. We've got to put the tape up there. So that'll probably take us a couple hours to do that. No big deal. Now another deal, we started working on the garage door. So unfortunately with the garage door, we just don't have the expertise to know the answers to our questions, I guess, is the biggest thing. So here we've got one panel of the door. We put several panels together, and the instructions are pretty clear. You put the panel together, you lay it out, you level it and everything, and then you begin to put the tracks up. So we started putting this piece of track up over here, and you know, we ran into some challenges. So this track is a 3-inch commercial track, and it's on what's called a reverse angle bracket. So that means that the bracket comes down and then cuts in behind it, so this bracket comes this way. And the reason is because on a steel frame, here's your steel frame here, that's where it has to mount to. Now this, compared to a traditional garage door, typically your traditional garage door at your house, will probably be the exact same width as your frame opening. With these doors, they overlap by 1 inch. And according to the manufacturer, that's because we're using this reverse angle mounting bracket, and it's on a steel frame, and that's how they do it. So, okay, well, so this is a 14-foot opening, so the door is 14 foot 2 inches to give us 1 inch of overlap on each end. So then it says that when you put the rail on, this space here should be about 3/4 of an inch to give some flex to the door as it moves up and down. It has the ability to move however it needs to move freely within the tracks. And that all seems pretty straightforward. So the door is leveled, the track, you want to plumb it, and then you're going to mount it. So it has these mounting spaces, which in theory you could put a screw in the middle of that, and then that'd give you the ability to move your track a little bit to adjust it and make sure that it's perfectly plumb. The problem that we have is, so our metal building, the door framing consists of a C-purlin steel frame that is 2 inches by 8 inches. So it's 8 inches deep, and the, I don't know, the bins backwards, whatever, or come out 2 inches. The problem with that is that when we start to screw this thing on, if we screw in this area here, we miss the frame completely. So it basically goes through this trim, but there's no steel. The steel doesn't extend far enough so that you miss it, which means we have to make holes further out here towards the edge of the bracket in order to grab the purlin steel. And in doing so, you get a slight movement on that, and so we put a screw at the very top. We got one down here, and when we did that, it kicked out just a hair, so it is not perfectly plumb. Let me grab the level here and I'll show you what I mean. So if I stick this level on the side of my track, well, it actually does look perfectly plumb now. I thought I measured it before or checked it before and it was off a hair, but looking at it right now, it actually looks plumb. So, okay, that's good. It must have shifted or moved a little bit, and we're plumb. So, okay, happy about that. However, let me show you what I'm not happy about. So now I've only got 2 screws in it right now, so it obviously isn't going to be that rigid. But the thing is, when I move it down here, you can see, even right here at that screw, you can see how there's movement there. And what I've noticed is that because I'm so far to the outside of this bracket, that I think that's causing that bit of instability. And when I get it tight and put more screws in it, there's even a little bit of flex on this purlin. because I'm on the edge of this purlin as well. So that concerns me. And the reason it concerns me is because I don't have the experience to know how rigid should these tracks be. Do these tracks have to be like totally stiff and rigid that there's no flex in them at all? Or can there be some flex? If so, how much flex? I don't know. Do I need to brace this purlin more? If I do need to brace the purlin more, what's the industry standard? You know, how do you brace this purlin? I mean, I could just take a piece of a steel strap, so to speak, and run it across this and weld it on each side, and that would reinforce it from the back side and provide a little extra support, especially wherever the screws go in for the bracket. So that's, you know, a theory, but without having the expertise, I don't know. And when you spend, you know, thousands of dollars, I mean, these 3 doors were, well, once we got the rebate and everything, we paid about $13,000 for 3 doors. So that's just over $4,000 per door. Now, granted, these are awesome doors. I mean, they're heavily insulated. They've got a completely steel wrapped, nothing exposed on the door, steel on both sides, fully wrapped, and a solid foam core. So R19 is the insulation value on these, actually R18.9, so we round up to R19. But anyway, these are really high quality insulated doors. You know, they've got the heavy steel reinforced brackets on all the ends, and these are just, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they're high quality doors, and that's the very best price that we could find on a door of this quality. So when you spend that kind of money on the doors, we definitely do not want to screw this up. We need these doors to last forever, and you know, to make sure that happens, I mean, we invested in the extra heavy hardware. So this is called dual stiles, and so basically on each end you got double hinges, and the shaft on the wheel is longer. That's a 3-inch wheel with big 3-inch commercial tracks. So I mean, we spared no expense on these doors. We made sure that whatever upgrades they had to make it the highest quality that we could make it, we went ahead and did it. And you know, that's what we wanted. We don't want to skimp on this, because this is, you know, a moving part, and so moving parts can break and wear out, and so we went high end rather than going low end on it, just to make sure that it lasts. And so we don't want to mess it up on the installation part, you know. We definitely don't want to put all this up and then have to take it back down because we screwed something up, or have it break down the road or whatever. We want to make sure this is right. So now we're in a position that we've got to call in reinforcements. So it's not that we can't do this, it's just that we don't want to take a chance in screwing it up. And so at a minimum, we need to call in somebody that has the experience, an expert, you know, that does this for a living, that can at least teach us how to do one door, and then we can put up the other 2. But if the price is right, I'll have them help with all 3, and we'll just get it done, because that's the other thing, is we'd like to get this done. We still got a lot of work to do around here. We want to get this shop finished. We want to get these doors on. Once we get the doors on, I also need to order my door openers, and I'm probably going to have to weld some brackets and stuff for those. So before I do spray foam, you know, I need to have all the welding and everything done on this. so that everything is good to go and ready to mount. So I still have to do some welding up here at the top between the header of the door frame and the eave purlin, eave strut, I believe they call it. I've got to put in a piece of steel or whatever so that we can, that's where we'll mount the shaft and the springs and all that stuff's got to mount up there in the center. So that's something I've got left to do. And then the door opener will either go on that side or that side, and it'll connect directly to that shaft, and that's how it'll open and close the door. It's a jack shaft opener. And I believe we're going to use the LiftMaster commercial series on that as well. So again, we're not going cheap on these doors because they're moving parts and we just want stuff to last. So I think what we're going to do at this point, we're going to sideline the door job, and we're going to wait for the parts to come in. So we're still waiting on that shaft, and then we're going to call in an expert to see if we can get some help on that. And when we get a bid from them on what it's going to cost us to do that, then we'll determine what level of help we're going to get, whether we just get them to help us and teach us on one door, or whether we get them to help with all three. We'll play that by ear. But that's kind of where we're at on that. You know, here's another challenge right here. So this is a piece of track that goes above. So this piece right here goes on top of that vertical track. And it's set to pitch, so that means that it follows the pitch of the roof, whereas most of your residential doors come straight out at a 90-degree angle. We went ahead and got what's called a pitched track so that it follows the pitch of the roof, and that's mainly just to keep it out of the way and maximize our space here in the building so that you know, whatever we're doing, the door is as close to the roof as possible, to just keep it out of the way when it's open. And you know, whatever we may be doing in the future, I have no idea. But so the challenge with that, it follows along the pitch of the roof. And you know, to me, in a perfect world, I would be able to mount that right up to that track there, and it would curve around, and then I could literally screw it right to these purlins along the pitch of the roof. That would be like best case, perfect scenario. Unfortunately, the way that they've done the tracks on this, or the angle brace, the bracket, whatever you want to call it, so you've got the track. And again, this is heavy duty, 3-inch track. And then you see the bracket is a reverse angle that comes down instead of being flat with the track and coming up. So the problem there is that if your purlin, you know, runs along here, there's no way to put a screw straight from this bracket into the purlin. So I mean, that basically right there says that you can't do it that way. So in my mind, the best way to do this would be to flip this bracket over, just, you know, flip it that way so that you got this flat edge, or it would be this flat edge would come up this way and make it basically even with the track, and then screw it right straight to the purlins. I mean, that would be the like perfect world, best case scenario. But of course, until we get it up there and see how it fits, we don't know if that's possible or not. So I'm not going to mess with it until we do that, and you know, a professional will be able to tell us more of whether that's a good idea or not. But since the tracks roll on this side of the wheels roll on this side of the track, I mean, in my mind, in theory, that would work great. The one problem that we run into is that the way that these are connected, you can see here you know, this is like a rivet, and that's not a, you know, a hand pressed rivet that you do with a little rivet tool. You know, this is like some heavy duty that they probably used a machine or something to press that on. So those would have to be drilled out, and then we would have to either figure out how to replace them with the same type deal, or we'd have to put a screw in there or whatever. Now, judging by the way that the wheels fit in this track, I mean, you definitely could do it with like a flathead screw. I mean, you can see this track here, and here's the flathead screw. So on these, they actually use these flathead screws, and you know, it's got a bolt on the back. Now, the reason for that is so you can actually adjust these tracks, loosen these bolts, you can slide it in and out to get your fitment correct there. Now, of course, you can see that there's a gap there between the frame and the deal, and that's normal, because then normally you'll come along with some weather stripping here that'll fit on the frame here, and it'll go against the door there. Rubber, weather stripping, whatever, foam, I don't know what it's made of, but that way you seal that better. And of course, it's got a rubber weather strip along the bottom, and these doors all, you know, have lips on the top that fit into the next panel. So I mean, they will seal really good, and you know, maximize the use of that heavily insulated door. So I mean, that's kind of where we're at on these, and that's the challenges that we've got, and that we just don't have the experience. So, you know, when you're a do-it-yourselfer, I guess one of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody is you always have to kind of weigh risk versus reward. When you don't know how to do something, you know, sometimes you just have to admit that you're in over your head, and you know, make a decision or know when it's best to call in some expertise. And you know, in a lot of cases on this building, we had no idea what we were doing, but we were able to figure it out. And the risk versus reward was no big deal. I mean, there are things that we absolutely did wrong. So when I say we did them wrong, it means we made some mistakes along the way. You can go back and watch our videos and see where we made mistakes, and we showed you the mistakes we made, and it might have made the job a little more difficult compared to somebody experienced in how they would have done it. But the end result was the same. I mean, the siding got put up, and it's all good. And you know, when we had folks come in to do the roof, man, I got several comments from all the folks on the team that commented that this building was put together very well, and that we did a good job. And they were surprised that just Lorena and I were able to do this to the level that we did it. You know, the quality wise, they're used to coming in, you know, they made comments about coming in behind professionals to do pieces of work or whatever, and that the quality that they saw from some people that do this for a living was not up to the quality of what we did. And he said, you know, the individual I was talking to at the time basically commented that it's not because they don't know how to do it, it's because they're lazy or whatever, and they're cutting corners. Sometimes you get contractors like that, and that's unfortunate. But we did the best we could, and we tried to always make sure that we were doing quality work, and you know, we tried to think things through. Occasionally we probably went a little bit too far and got tired and probably should have quit, and we kept going and made some mistakes, and all of those mistakes were what I would call recoverable mistakes, meaning it wasn't like permanent damage or something that was going to cost us a bunch of money to fix. It was just cost us time to go back and do it right, make a change, whatever. Or the process that we had to use to get through the mistake took more time. And that's all it came down to. But in the end, we've got a good quality product. When it comes to these doors, well, risk versus reward. The risk is too great. The expense is too great. So we just don't want to screw that up. So, we're going to call in some help. And that's the smart thing to do. When you're do it yourself. Know what your abilities are. Make decisions. If you feel like you're in over your head, you've always got to assess your risk and call in professionals to at least advise. There are a lot of folks out there that are, in all the trades that have the experience. Sometimes you can hire them just to give you advice. So never be afraid to make that decision and bring in expertise. So that's what we're going to do on this. We'll decide once we talk to them of whether we're going to just hire them to do advice, or whether we're going to hire them to help us put the doors, or whether we're going to hire them to come in and do the whole job. I don't know. We'll just have to play that by ear. But we do have our contractor friend that helped us thus far. He's got a door guy, so to speak, that does all his doors, and he'll put us in contact with them, or he'll get a bid for us or whatever, and we'll go from there. Well, that's where we're at on all that. We're going to get on these closure tape installation and get that wrapped up. So we're at least still making progress, and then we're going to keep waiting on parts and start some other projects. So that's where we're at. Stick with us. Let's see how it goes. As always, folks, we appreciate you watching our videos and supporting our channel. Thank you for stopping by. Until our next video, take care, God bless. We'll see you on the next one.